I arrived from Assisi about 2 hours ago, and I was in Rome this morning, and as I was leaving Assisi, I stopped at the tomb of St Carlo, and I prayed for all those I would meet here. And so Carlo has you in his heart, this parish. You know that near the city of Assisi, and the fathers were in Assisi together with some, is the city of Perugia. Perugia. And you know what Perugia is famous for? Perugina chocolate. Have you heard of Perugina chocolate? You don't know Perugina chocolate? Do you not know the little chocolates, Baci? Baci chocolate. They're delicious chocolate, because they have a beautiful caramel coating with a wonderful nut in the chocolate, but they always have a message that's attached to the chocolate inside the wrapping. And that message always seems right for our life at that moment. When you open that chocolate, it's the message that we need. But you know what the word baci, which is the name of the chocolate, you know what it means in Italian? Kisses. Kisses. And why do I say this? Because the language of God is the story that He writes in our lives. The events He sends us in our lives. These are the baci, these are the kisses. All the events. You know what Carlo used to say to his friends? He used to say, he has lots of very beautiful sayings, short sayings. And Carlo would repeat to his friends, from whatever point of view you look, life is always fantastic. Do you believe this? Do you believe that? Because if you have faith, you can believe it. It doesn't mean everything is wonderful in life, but you truly believe that God will use everything for a greater purpose. For a greater purpose. Perhaps in your life today, there is something that you say, why has God allowed this? Why is this happening to me? Why did this happen to me? Have faith. This is St. Bernadette. You know, today we celebrate the memorial of St. Bernadette. Our Lady of Lourdes appeared to St. Bernadette. You know that many millions of people go to Lourdes every year. They go there. It's known as a place of healing. And certainly God can heal. There are miracles, physical healing. But you know that the percentage of those who are physically healed in Lourdes is tiny. Tiny. But those who are healed in their hearts is everyone. Because this is where we need to be healed. This is why we bring the heart relic of St. Carlo Acutis here. Our Lady said to St. Bernadette, I do not promise to make you happy in this life, but in the next. And all the saints know this. All the saints know this. I grew up not far from here. I grew up in Watford. I used to work after university. I went to university in England. And then I used to work on the stock exchange in the city of London, in the NatWest Tower, the biggest tower at that time in London. It was everything I wanted in life. The promise of money, the promise of cars, the promise of travel. Everything. But one day I was called up by the general manager of the bank. Imagine, it was the largest bank in England at the time. And the general manager was looking for a personal assistant. I did not ask for this. He was interviewing 6, 7 of us. He called me to be one of those. And the general manager, he made many questions. One of the questions was, what are your interests? And I told him some of my interests. I like to travel, I like this, I like that. I told him, I'm also involved in the church. And he asked other questions. And at the end of the interview, the general manager said to me, I can still remember his face. He said to me, you know, you can have this job. You have all the qualities to be my personal assistant. Imagine, the general manager of the largest bank. But he said, if you want this job, you have to choose between the bank and the church. And it sounds harsh, what he said, but how grateful I am. That was the kiss of God. That was Bachi. Because he put it on the line for me. Who do you choose in this world? Who do you choose today? I'm a priest. The bank promised me to travel. I've never traveled so much as a priest. The bank promised me hotels everywhere. Everywhere I go, I have beautiful places to stay. God takes nothing away. God takes nothing away. He gives us everything 100-fold. Do you believe this? Do you believe this in your heart? This is the language of God. When I was in the womb of my mother, the doctors knew I would be born with some disability. It was a time mothers were given a certain medication to help them sleep. It was a German medication, a very good medication. But that medication left many kids without arms, without limbs. It was called thalidomide. Have you heard of thalidomide? And my parents told me on the day I was ordained a priest, how much pressure the doctors were putting on them to terminate the pregnancy. How are you going to care for someone who's going to take away your freedom, who's going to cost you your time, your money? And my parents on my ordination day told me the answer they gave the doctors. If God has allowed us to have this child, God is going to provide. It is true, I was born with one hand. You see, I only have one hand. But can you imagine that my parents made a decision with faith? They chose God, and God bless them. God bless them. I knew Mother Teresa of Calcutta. We used to meet. We used to write to each other. St. Teresa of Calcutta. And I asked Mother Teresa one day, I said, Mother, how is it that I only have one hand? I wanted to know from a saint. And Mother Teresa, she said, Father, that suffering that you have is your ladder to heaven. Because without that, maybe you would lose your soul. God allows the cross in our life to take us to heaven. It's his kiss from heaven for us. And Mother Teresa said to me, Father, every night before you go to bed, you need to pray the gospel of the 5 fingers. I didn't know what this gospel was. I was studying for a doctorate in Rome. I thought I knew everything. And Mother Teresa said to me, I'm going to teach you what is most important in life. Before you go to bed every night, take the 5 little fingers of your hand and say to Jesus, thanking him for the cross, thanking him for that suffering in your life, because it's going to keep you close to him, and he's going to be close to you. Say to Jesus 5 words, the gospel of the 5 fingers, you did this for me. 5 words. In gratitude. In gratitude From whatever point of view you look, life is fantastic. You know, happiness doesn't depend on having one hand or two hands, one leg or two legs. Is that true? Happiness depends on having Jesus. It's beautiful when we live this way. Today I'm a priest, imagine. I could anoint my mother as she was dying. She had vascular dementia. Vascular dementia, my mother. And she went home to Jesus the 1st of September, 2024. The first thing I did when I came back this afternoon was stop at my parents' graves in Watford. How grateful we need to be for those who gave us life. But I remember the day my mother was dying. I celebrated Mass. I anointed her. She was in a semi-coma. She couldn't open her eyes. She couldn't eat. Because of the vascular dementia, she was dying. For days she didn't open her eyes. And at the end of the Mass, I kissed my mother. And I said to Mum, Mum, I love you. Thank you for everything. And at that moment she opened her eyes. And she gave a beautiful smile. And she spoke. And she said, "That was really nice. Thank you for everything." They were her last words to me. Then she closed her eyes. God gives everything back, dear brothers and sisters. This is what the saints teach us, whether it's Francis of Assisi, whether it's Carlo Acutis, whether it's Saint Bernadette, whether it's Clare of Assisi. I'm going to speak more about Carlo at the end of this Mass. I really invite you to stay. It'll be a short talk. Really stay. And then I will bless you individually with the relic of St Carlo. You know that the first miracle came from a little boy. He came to Mass, just as you are here. He couldn't eat any food. His pancreas was deformed. He was 4 years old. He weighed just 20 pounds. He had to carry a towel because anything he ate, which was a liquid diet, he would just throw up. His grandfather brought him to the Mass just as you are here tonight. And at the end of the Mass, people were invited to come forward to be blessed by the relic. A little piece of Carlo's t-shirt. One of these relics is Carlo's favorite t-shirt. The little boy, 4 years old, Matthäus, asked his grandfather, "What am I doing here?" And his grandfather said, "Have faith. Ask what you need." The little boy touched the relic and he prayed, "I want to stop vomiting. I want to eat normally." He had the faith of a little boy. He touched the relic. On his way home from the church that evening, he asked his mother for the favorite food of his two brothers, steak, chips, and beans. He ate everything for the first time. Since that day, he hasn't stopped eating. He's kind of chubby now. The doctors say, and there are very strict examinations done, the doctors say, on the way home from church that evening, the pancreas of that little boy began to change physiology, which was where he was sick. Carlo interceded for him before Jesus. Do not put limits. Do you have something to ask Jesus tonight through Carlo's intercession? For yourself? For someone else? Do not be afraid. Ask with faith. The greatest miracle that we can ask for, and I will speak more about this at the end of Mass, is that we remain always united to Jesus. Always united to Jesus. Carlo, when he was 7 years old, to parents who never went to church at that time, he insisted on receiving Jesus in the Eucharist. Kids in Italy usually receive the Eucharist at 8, 9 years old. Carlo at 7 said, I want to receive Jesus. And on that day, he said to his parents, I have a program for my life. Always to be united to Jesus. This is my program of life. This is the greatest miracle that Jesus can give us, to be always united to him. I invite you, dear brothers and sisters, to open your hearts now. Do not be afraid. Do not put limits on what God wants to do in your life. Carlo, it wants to send signs from heaven to this parish, to you, that he is with God. Open your hearts now to receive Jesus in the Eucharist. And at the end of Mass, to be touched by a saint, so that you and I can become saints as well. I asked Mother Teresa one day, how can I be a saint, Mother? I'll never forget what she said to me. If you have the desire, she said, God will do the rest. Do you have the desire to be a saint? Do you want to be a saint? It's beautiful to be a saint. God wants to work this miracle in our lives today. Let us open our hearts for the graces that are flowing from the presence of St. Carlo Acutis in this parish of St. Joseph's this evening.